Hey there, welcome back. Great to see you again for law number 10. Follow the energy, not the words. Actions reveal the truth. If you haven't watched the previous episodes yet, you're missing some important steps in this book. The great divide between words and energy. Human beings are the only creatures who can twist sound into meaning, who can wrap thoughts in elegant syllables and project them outward as promises, vows, or declarations. Yet words, for all their beauty, are the most fragile form of truth. They can be rehearsed, copied, manipulated, even weaponized. A person can say, "I love you," and at the same time cultivate betrayal in silence. A colleague can assure you, "I'm loyal to this team," while secretly preparing their exit. Someone may smile and claim, "I'm fine," while their posture, tone, and eyes reveal the storm inside them. Words are the easiest mask. Energy is the hardest to fake. That is why the wisest among us learn early to follow the current beneath the language, the aura, the vibe, the emotional atmosphere, because energy never lies. In daily life, we encounter this split constantly. Imagine walking into a room where someone greets you warmly, yet you immediately sense they do not want you there. They have said all the right words, perhaps even smiled, but the chill in their presence tells a different story. Or consider the friend who often proclaims, "You can count on me," yet disappears the moment you truly need them. Their words carry the rhythm of loyalty, but their absence speaks louder. The gap between words and energy is where truth resides. The challenge is learning to read it. Nowhere is this clearer than in matters of love. Attraction, the kind that shakes foundations and ties lives together, cannot be explained by language alone. You may hear endless declarations, receive countless promises, and still feel nothing. Then, one day, you meet someone whose presence alone settles your nerves, whose energy quiets your restless mind. The world may tell you that love is built on shared interests, compatible goals, or financial stability, but the deeper truth is resonance. One soul harmonizing with another. Her vibe to me, my vibe to her. This unseen dance decides why one person out of millions becomes the one you wish to spend your life with. It is not her words, though they may be sweet. It is not his promises, though they may be grand. It is the aura, the field of energy exchanged in touch, in silence, even in the brief locking of eyes. Biologically, we can trace this to oxytocin, dopamine, and mirror neurons firing in synchrony. Spiritually, some call it soul recognition. Psychologically, it is simply the nervous system choosing safety in another human being. The same truth extends to friendship. Words like best friend or brother from another mother carry weight not because they sound poetic, but because they describe a reality beyond bloodlines. Think of the friend who answers your call at midnight, who sacrifices sleep, work, or personal comfort to stand by you in moments of collapse. Why would someone with no genetic obligation carry such loyalty? Because energy recognizes energy. Friendship at its core is not built on casual conversation, but on lived consistency. "I got your back" is not valuable because it is spoken, but because when life tests you, it is lived. Words may crown someone a companion, but energy proves them family. Psychology confirms this. Our nervous systems are not closed circuits, they co-regulate with others. When you sit with someone calm, your heart rate slows. When you stand near someone anxious, your body tenses. This is why energy is the truest measure of relationship. People who speak of loyalty but radiate restlessness drain you. People who speak little but whose presence is steady strengthen you. Researchers call this emotional contagion, moods and states transferring between people unconsciously. You may call it vibe. Whatever name we give it, the fact remains, our connections are written not in language but in invisible exchanges of energy. This is where karma and aura come in. Who you are today, the aura you project, is shaped by every action you have taken before. If you gossip often, you attract gossipers. If you betray, you draw betrayal. If you cultivate loyalty, your energy becomes a beacon that attracts loyal souls. People may not know your history in detail, but they feel it when they meet you. Your past choices live inside your energy field, announcing themselves silently. This is why some individuals radiate peace, others aggression, and still others an exhausting emptiness. Words may conceal history for a moment, but aura never does. And yet, energy must be reciprocated for any relationship to endure. Love without mutual giving collapses into control or dependence. Friendship without balanced exchange corrodes into resentment. If one always gives and the other only takes, eventually the bond starves. This is why the most enduring connections, whether romantic or platonic, are those where sacrifice flows in both directions. Both give, both receive. Both pour themselves into the bond not out of obligation, but out of a recognition that shared energy sustains them more than words ever could. Following the energy, then, is not mystical idealism, it is survival. To believe words over energy is to set yourself up for disappointment, to trust masks instead of substance. To follow energy is to ask, who shows up when the world falls silent? Who sacrifices when it is inconvenient? Who lightens your burden instead of adding to it? These questions do not require language to answer. Life itself reveals them through repeated patterns. And when you learn to read those patterns, you discover that energy is the most reliable truth-teller you will ever meet. Across history, the greatest leaders, mystics, and strategists have known that words can deceive, but energy betrays reality. Long before psychology coined terms like emotional leakage or micro-expressions, emperors, generals, and sages relied on the silent cues of presence and aura to guide their judgments. They understood that beneath the surface performance of language lies the deeper current of human intent, one that cannot be hidden indefinitely. In ancient China, Sun Tzu, author of The Art of War, warned that armies may declare confidence before battle, but their true spirit is revealed in their formation, their discipline, and the quiet strength in their movement. A general who trusted only the rallying cries of soldiers would be deceived. The wiser general looked for the energy behind the march. Were the men aligned, steady, breathing as one, or was there a subtle tremor in their steps? Victory, Sun Tzu suggested, comes to the one who sees the energy beneath the words. Centuries later, the Roman Stoics echoed the same principle. Marcus Aurelius wrote that one must read the soul of others by their bearing, not merely by their declarations. He lived this truth during plague and war. Advisors around him spoke of hope, loyalty, and stability, but Marcus did not place faith in rhetoric. He watched their consistency, the energy of their choices, and thus separated opportunists from allies. His calm endurance in crisis was not built on what was said, but on what was lived. Even spiritual traditions, across cultures, understood that silence and presence reveal more than speech. The Buddha taught that intentions shape karma, and that words divorced from intent create suffering. His emphasis was never on what is spoken, but on the energy carried behind speech, loving kindness, compassion, or deception. In Christianity, Jesus often said, "By their fruits you shall know them." The fruit was not words, it was actions, aura, the energy one left in the lives of others. Both teachings converge. Energy outlives rhetoric, and energy exposes truth. Consider also Japanese philosophy, where the concept of ma, the purposeful space or pause, teaches that silence carries its own meaning. In relationships, the pause before answering may reveal hesitation, sincerity, or hidden doubt. A yes spoken quickly may feel heavy, while a pause followed by a yes can carry genuine commitment. The Japanese also revere chinmoku, the art of silence, where energy fills the void of words. This is why in Japanese culture, a room of silence may feel full rather than empty, because energy, not speech, defines the atmosphere. History also offers examples where ignoring energy led to catastrophe. Leaders who trusted only in words, who believed allies' declarations without sensing betrayal in their energy, fell to ambush and treachery. Kings who relied on courtiers' flattery but ignored the aura of ambition behind their smiles often ended dethroned or dead. Conversely, those who sensed hidden currents of intent, even when the surface was calm, survived. The lesson repeats: words are the camouflage, energy is the terrain. But why is this so? Because energy is cumulative, it cannot be fabricated overnight. A liar can rehearse words, but their energy is shaped by years of choices. A manipulator may practice charm, but their aura carries the subtle weight of self-interest. You may not consciously name it, but you feel it. This is why two leaders may give identical speeches. One ignites trust, the other rings hollow. The difference is not rhetoric, it is energy. The same applies in love. Two people may say, "I love you," but one radiates warmth, sacrifice, and presence, while the other offers only performance. The listener may not articulate why, but they feel the truth. Philosophy also teaches that energy is cyclical. What you project returns. Karma is not punishment from above, but the echo of energy in motion. If you deceive, your energy weakens trust around you, and betrayal eventually finds its way back. If you nurture loyalty, your energy draws loyalty in return. This explains why some leaders cultivate devotion effortlessly, while others breed suspicion despite constant reassurances. The difference lies not in words, but in the invisible current surrounding them. In relationships, this cycle is profound. Lovers who give without expectation create an energy that deepens intimacy. Friends who consistently sacrifice create an aura of safety that binds for decades. Meanwhile, those who take without giving generate resentment, even if their words are constantly affectionate. Love cannot survive such imbalance, because energy, not declarations, sustains bonds. This is why one partner may quietly feel, "I no longer believe what you say," even while the other insists on devotion. The truth lies in the mismatch between words and energy. The philosophers of old would tell us, to follow energy is to follow life's true script. Words are drafts, easily rewritten. Energy is the manuscript already lived. When you learn to read this invisible script, you move through the world with a kind of foresight. You can predict betrayal before it is spoken. You can sense loyalty before it is proven. You can feel attraction before it is declared. This ability, sharpened through history, is the foundation of power, wisdom, and resilience. Modern psychology confirms what sages and generals already knew. Human energy leaks truth no matter how carefully words are crafted. Paul Ekman's pioneering research on microexpressions showed that emotions burst through the body in milliseconds, far faster than the conscious brain can conceal them. A flicker of contempt, a flash of fear, a brief tightening of the lips, these are the cracks through which energy escapes, revealing what words try to disguise. This is why a skilled observer often feels dishonesty before they can explain it. The nervous system doesn't lie, and energy is simply the nervous system broadcasting itself in real time. When someone insists they are confident yet their hands tremble, when a manager says everything is fine but their voice quivers with unease, the words lose their authority because the energy contradicts them. People may not always name this contradiction, but they sense it deeply, and decisions are made based on that feeling. This is the psychology of what is often called emotional leakage. Our internal states bleed into posture, breathing, eye movement, and tone, and the people around us absorb it unconsciously. This is also why energy is contagious. Neuroscience now recognizes the phenomenon of mirror neurons, brain cells that fire not only when we act, but also when we observe others acting. If someone yawns, we often yawn. If they radiate calm, our body relaxes. If they vibrate with tension, our pulse quickens. Energy moves between people like an unseen current, and this explains why we walk away from some conversations exhausted while others leave us uplifted. The phrase, "being around him drains me," is not poetic exaggeration, it is neurological fact. You don't just hear someone's words, you inherit their state of being, whether it's anxiety, anger, or joy. This is why surrounding yourself with negative people has real cost. You may believe that you can resist their influence, but the body absorbs what the mind denies. A gossip-filled office corrodes trust not because the words are particularly clever, but because the energy of suspicion spreads like smoke. Similarly, someone who constantly complains reshapes the emotional tone of everyone around them, lowering morale and slowly closing doors of opportunity. On the other hand, being in the orbit of someone with genuine warmth and confidence feels like standing near a fire. Your own reserves rise. In love, this is the unseen magnetism that draws two people together, the nervous system registering safety, passion, or depth long before the words "I love you" are spoken. It is also why some declarations of love ring hollow. Two people can say the same phrase, but one feels heavy, rehearsed, or manipulative, while the other feels luminous and alive. The words are identical, but the energy is not. In long-term relationships, this mismatch becomes more pronounced. One partner may keep saying all the right things while slowly withdrawing energy, giving less presence, less sacrifice, less true availability. The other senses the void and may not always articulate it, but they begin to feel the absence. Trust frays not because words stopped, but because energy did. The body knows when it is loved, even if the mouth insists otherwise. Friendship reveals the same truth. There are people who will say, "I'm here for you," but vanish when sacrifice is required. And there are others who never say the words, but show up without hesitation. Over time, the energy of loyalty outweighs verbal promises, and this is why we often feel closer to non-blood kin than to family. When we call someone a brother from another mother, it is because their energy has proven itself again and again. Sacrifice radiates trust, and the nervous system registers the bond as safe, even sacred. This is why some men will throw themselves into danger for a comrade, or why friends will rearrange their lives to support one another in moments of crisis. The words are secondary. The energy is the currency that forges kinship stronger than blood. Business negotiations are no different. A desperate entrepreneur may polish their pitch, memorize data, and smile broadly, but the subtle tension in their energy gives away neediness. Investors sense it, even if unconsciously, and it diminishes leverage. Conversely, a leader who walks into the room with calm steadiness projects abundance even before they speak, and the energy shapes the negotiation in their favor. Many deals collapse not because the numbers are wrong, but because the energy revealed desperation or insincerity. History is filled with leaders who commanded loyalty through consistency of energy rather than speeches. Their teams trusted what they radiated more than what they promised. This is where karma enters modern life, not as superstition, but as lived psychology. Energy echoes. A dishonest boss who repeatedly projects manipulation eventually loses authority, even if employees never openly rebel. A generous leader who consistently radiates fairness cultivates trust that compounds into loyalty. In relationships, a selfish partner may win in the short term by charming words, but over time, their energy reveals the imbalance and their world collapses inward. On the other hand, givers attract networks of support, not because of cosmic magic, but because energy circulates. What goes around does indeed come around. So how does one apply this law in practice? It begins with listening beyond the ears. Instead of hanging on words, observe the subtle signals: tone, pace, eyes, hands, and the weight of presence. Notice how someone's body shifts when they make a claim. Pay attention to your own body. Do you feel settled around them or slightly on guard? This instinct is your nervous system detecting energy mismatches. To refine this, keep a simple log of moments when words and energy diverged, and note the outcomes. Over time, your brain learns to catch what it once ignored. In professional settings, train yourself to measure consistency. Don't believe mission statements or polished slogans. Watch how leaders act under pressure. In relationships, look not at declarations of love, but at the energy of sacrifice and presence. When someone is tired, do they still show up? When they fail, do they still give warmth? Energy is tested in adversity, not in easy times. You can even use this awareness to project strength yourself. Before walking into a negotiation, align your energy through breath and posture. Speak less, but ensure that what radiates from you is calm steadiness. In conflict, pause before responding. Silence itself projects control, while rushed words leak insecurity. When you master this, people begin to feel your energy even before you speak, and that resonance is far more persuasive than language. The ultimate truth is that words are costumes, energy is the soul. Costumes can impress in the short term, but the soul is always revealed. If you follow energy, you follow the truth of people, the unspoken script of their lives. And if you learn to master your own energy, aligning words and aura, you become someone others instinctively trust, follow, and love. Energy leaves a trail. Unlike words, which scatter into the air the moment they are spoken, energy embeds itself in the memory of others and in the patterns of life itself. This is why people may forget exactly what you said to them years ago, but they never forget how you made them feel. A kind gesture resonates long after the details fade, and a cruel remark, even when unremembered in language, can scar as a lasting emotional imprint. Psychology confirms this. Emotional memory carries greater weight than verbal recall. Our nervous systems are wired to prioritize feelings, tones, and atmospheres over syllables and sound bites. When we tune ourselves to this reality, we recognize that what we radiate, in posture, tone, presence, and intent, becomes far more important than the eloquence of our words. Words decorate, energy defines. This is the foundation of karma, stripped from mysticism and brought into practical observation. Karma is not merely a spiritual ledger in some faraway heaven. It is the accumulation of energy that cycles back into our lives. The manipulative boss who cuts corners and undermines his team may seem to thrive in the short term with smooth speeches and clever explanations. But over time, his energy creates distrust, and distrust corrodes loyalty. Eventually, the very team he depends on will no longer extend themselves for him, and his empire will crumble, not from a lack of words, but from the deficit of genuine energy. Similarly, in relationships, a partner who consistently radiates warmth, even without saying much, builds a reservoir of loyalty that words cannot manufacture. The one who repeatedly says, "I love you," without the energy to match, will be doubted. The one who radiates love quietly, through touch, sacrifice, and consistent presence, becomes unforgettable. Energy does not just explain the past, it predicts the future. A careful observer of energy can often anticipate outcomes long before they occur. If a friend constantly leaks insecurity, endlessly masking it with bravado, you can foresee the moment they will sabotage their own success when the pressure mounts. If a colleague's energy is scattered, unfocused, and inconsistent, no matter how impressive their words, it is clear they will collapse when responsibility requires stability. Leaders throughout history have understood this implicitly. Generals could sense whether their men were truly ready for battle, not from their chants and slogans, but from the energy in their eyes and bodies. Visionaries could predict whether an idea would grow or fail, not from how convincingly it was pitched, but from the energy of conviction in the team carrying it. The ancients spoke of this in their own language. The Buddha taught that intention, the quality of mind behind action, is what shapes karma. Actions are merely the outer shell. Intention is the energy that determines their fruit. Jesus echoed this insight when he said, "By their fruits you shall know them." A person's fruits are not their declarations, but the results of their consistent energy, manifesting in life's outcomes. The Greeks carried a similar truth. Character is destiny. Ethos, the energy of character, inevitably shapes fate. Across civilizations, across religions, across philosophies, the same pattern is acknowledged. Words may distract, but energy cannot be hidden. The application of this truth is immense. In negotiations, following energy allows you to sense when the deal is about to collapse, no matter how polished the conversation sounds. A client may nod and agree with your presentation, but their restless energy, their distracted gaze, reveals disinterest. If you are alert, you will know to pivot or disengage, rather than being blindsided later. In relationships, energy tells you whether love is deepening or hollowing out. Even in silence, you can sense when someone is pulling away or when they are drawing closer. If you attune yourself to this, betrayal will never surprise you because the withdrawal of energy was visible long before the betrayal of words. Energy also guides your own path. When you align your energy with long-term goals, you build a trajectory of resilience. Discipline radiates as calm confidence. People feel your steadiness and invest their trust in you, often without fully knowing why. On the other hand, desperation is felt even before it is spoken. This is why mastering your own energy is as crucial as reading it in others. The one who carries consistent energy of clarity, commitment, and calm inevitably attracts loyalty, opportunity, and influence, even if their words are few. This is where karma becomes predictive power. When you study the consistency of someone's energy over time, you begin to see the trajectory of their life. A person cannot escape the consequences of the energy they radiate, just as a plant cannot escape the soil it grows from. If someone's energy is poisoned by bitterness, sooner or later their life bears bitter fruit. If someone's energy is patient, generous, and steady, their path bends toward growth, even if it takes time. Energy, more than words, is the handwriting of destiny. To master this law is to glimpse the future, not by mystical prophecy, but by observing the undeniable currents of energy that shape outcomes. When you learn to see beyond words, you will not be surprised by betrayal, collapse, or loyalty, because you will have already seen the truth written in aura, intention, and action. Following energy is following reality. It is the difference between being blinded by language and perceiving the deeper script of human nature. To fully embody this law is to learn the art of living beyond surface illusions. It is to stop listening only with your ears and begin listening with your entire being. Words are often camouflage, rehearsed, manipulated, or borrowed. Energy, however, is unfiltered truth. A master of this law begins to navigate life not through the promises, explanations, or arguments of others, but through the felt reality of their presence. Over time, this sensitivity becomes not just a skill, but a kind of vision. You begin to see outcomes forming long before they manifest, because energy reveals the seed of destiny. Growth in this area requires disciplined practice. The first step is inward, regulating your own energy so that you radiate steadiness rather than volatility. This is not about false positivity or pretending to be calm, but about deep self-mastery. Breath, posture, intention, these become your tools of alignment. If your inner world is fractured, people will sense it, no matter how polished your words. But if your energy is ordered, calm, and directed, people will trust you without knowing why. This is the hidden leverage of true leaders. They transmit clarity through energy, not rhetoric. The second step is outward, learning to observe rather than react. In conversations, watch where people's energy leaks. Notice their eyes when they speak of certain topics, their tone when they assure you of loyalty, their body when they are pressed under pressure. The words may insist on one story, but the energy always whispers the truth. With time, this practice makes you nearly impossible to deceive. You may not call it prophecy, but it feels like foresight. People around you may wonder why you are never caught off guard, why you seem to anticipate outcomes before they happen. The answer is simple. You are following energy, not words. This law also teaches resilience in relationships. Instead of clinging to words that disappoint, you learn to evaluate the underlying energy and adjust accordingly. A friend who says they support you but consistently drains your spirit is not a true ally. A lover who rarely declares love but radiates loyalty and presence is a deeper bond than 1,000 empty declarations. By following energy, you stop wasting years on illusions and begin investing in what is real. You learn to prune relationships that weaken you and cultivate those that strengthen you, all without drama or bitterness. On a larger scale, this mastery transforms how you engage with society itself. Politicians, marketers, influencers, many rely on words to captivate. But once you tune to energy, you will not be swayed by slogans or speeches. You will notice the dissonance between their promises and the energy they radiate. This is how civilizations survive manipulation, by training individuals who see through words into the core truth. Empires have collapsed because people believed words over energy. Those who learn this law are less likely to be deceived by false prophets, tyrants, or charming demagogues. There is also a spiritual dimension, though not bound to any single religion. Every wisdom tradition speaks of the invisible force that binds action to consequence. Karma, aura, prana, chi, spirit, the names differ, but the principle remains. What you radiate returns to you. When you master this law, you begin to consciously choose the energy you emit. You stop leaking bitterness, envy, or fear, and instead cultivate discipline, love, or calm authority. Over time, this not only changes how others respond to you, but it reshapes the trajectory of your own life. Energy is not only a mirror, it is also a magnet. The final insight is this: energy predicts, but it also creates. By mastering your energy, you are not just reading the future, you are bending it. When you hold steady in the storms of life, you alter how events unfold. When you radiate strength where others expect weakness, loyalty where others expect betrayal, patience where others expect haste, you disrupt the ordinary flow of cause and effect. This is why the greatest leaders, lovers, and thinkers in history often seem to stand above time itself. They did not follow the energy of the crowd, they generated their own. The lesson, then, is not merely to follow the energy of others, but to guard, refine, and project your own. To be the one whose presence changes the room, whose aura steadies the uncertain, whose energy lingers long after words are forgotten. In such mastery lies influence, resilience, and the quiet power that endures beyond speeches or reputations. Words vanish, energy endures. All right, that's a wrap for part 10. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate your time and energy. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and keeps the content coming your way. And be sure to check out part 11, where we dive into Learn Their Currency. Until then, take care and keep growing. See you in the next one.